Oh yeah. Yes, well, and we're live again on the second day together with my friend Peter Smith here from Solarclarity. And my God, the first day I was so tired. I rolled in my bed. I couldn't see anymore. It was so busy. How are you doing, Peter?
Well, similar. You can hear it in my voice. It was a fantastic
Very
day.
sexy voice, I must say.
Thank you.
Yes.
No, it was a fantastic day. It's crowded. It's very busy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people. There's a lot of stuff on display. It's huge.
Yeah.
So my legs hurt. My voice hurts.
Yeah.
We
have A, B, C, D, and then hole 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah,
and then,
yeah,
so you have 20
yeah.
holes, and it's
I don't know how
huge,
many,
and
but it's a lot.
yeah, but
And it's a
everybody
long
comes.
distance.
But everybody comes here to have dinner. I mean,
Yes. So well, we this is the second year that we do this.
Yeah.
That we invite our customers for lunch here because we think we can get that's the best way to see each other and talk to each other and meet up and in a relaxed setting.
Yeah.
Nicely air conditioned because it's hot.
Yeah. No, it's really a great way to take care of it. And then what I saw on all the different booths which I visited, it's all batteries, and everybody's talking about grid. So that's basically the focus we're going to talk about today. What's happening with batteries? What's happening with the grid? How can you make money with the batteries? When is it time to install it? And what are the arguments we use for the consumer to basically why they should use batteries? Because it's not only basically saving, only using your own stuff, right? I mean,
No, absolutely not. I mean, the first use of a battery, as it was first introduced, I think in Germany 7 years ago, was only the self-consumption, to use your own produced electricity,
be independent
and
of the grid,
independent of your grid, to maximize the self-consumption, that kind of thing. But the very interesting development that I find in Europe today is that we see in all the different countries different ways of using a battery pop up.
Yeah.
And that's also one of the things that we're going to talk about, like which are the different ways that we see and why are they used in different ways.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot you can do with a battery.
Yeah.
It's actually quite a fantastic thing.
Yeah. At the end, we're going to talk about virtual power plants, and we have an example from Sweden where that's really now well developed. A virtual power plant, we'll explain later what it is. And then the payback time of a battery. You know how fast it is in Sweden now?
I have no idea.
2 years.
2 years.
To pay back your battery in 2 years. Is that interesting? Then watch until the end because that's really important. Okay. I say that we first go to our first booth visit.
Yes.
And that's also the speaker for the next moment. And that's Alex, and that is basically we're going to SolarX, the booth visit of SolarX and what they have there. We are at SolarX Power, an inverter company, and they were the first to have hybrid inverters to support batteries. Let's see what they have now. Here you see different generations, and they always have this integrated nicely. The inverter, the battery management system, stackable batteries. Of course, it's connected to the internet and on your mobile. It basically has all the trading facilities, so you can buy and sell and make it stable. I think this one looks really cool. It's also a new version which they introduce. Inverter, battery management system, and 5 kilowatt-hour stackable batteries. And if you don't think that's enough, let's have a little bit of bigger. This is like 225 kilowatt hours of water-cooled battery system. They just put it in a box. It can trade the way you are. It can shave off your energy use if you cannot get a connection. If you cannot get a 3x256 connection, then you can just take a box like that and charge it with your normal charge at night and use it during the day. That's already starting to become a use because the grid is overpowered. We do not have enough power to help everybody. So therefore these kinds of boxes are there. There's already a whole bunch of them in the Benelux. So I loved your dogs, Alex. That was fantastic how you had it. So we have here Alex Pent, Regional Manager of SolarX Power. And we have Rudy New, Sales Director of Pylontech. And
Pylontech, sorry.
Pylontech. I'm very happy to have Peter here with me because I'm sorry. Could you introduce your company for a moment, please?
Sure.
So put it close to your. Yeah.
Thank you. So we are a pure battery player in the market since 2009. We have established, and 2013 entered the EU market with 10 years experience. We're focusing on battery cells production, BMS production, and offer the whole battery solution to the EU market. Yeah. And very focusing on the battery energy storage.
Great. And how big is how many gigawatts have you done so far in your life?
In my life, I have only short life, you know.
You started in 2009. Yes, so how much has been?
We now have around 4 gigawatt hour delivered globally, only under Pylontech brand name. Yeah. You know, all our sales mostly goes to our own brand name. And by working for residential market.
4 gigawatt. Yeah. And the last year, how much of it was the last year?
Last year, we actually didn't do great job. It was around the 1 gigawatt hour that for last year.
So it's really going up quite a bit.
Going up. Yeah,
quite
exactly.
A bit. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And Alex, I mean, you've seen with the batteries, you were one of the first big inverter company. You were one of the first to integrate batteries in there. How important are batteries nowadays in the current systems?
Yeah, so nowadays, for example, I could give the project example. We did it in UK in 2018. So battery play a very important role now in today's PV system. Oh, yeah? So for example, in 2018, we did a project in the UK, deployed thousands of home batteries. And what this battery can do, that is this battery, so you know when there's no enough power on the grid, the frequency is very low. So for this project, our inverter can detect, if the frequency is too low, then it will give a command to all the inverters to discharge, to back up the grid. And if there is much power on the grid that you have you have too much power on the grid, then it's not good for grid as well. And in this way, there is a command to ask all the inverters to charge the battery from the grid. So in this way, the residential battery systems can help the grid to be balanced, to be stable.
2018?
2018, yes.
So you already had a virtual power plant actually running at that time?
Yeah. Actually, we are the first one in the UK to do this project. Very successful. And what's more the battery can bring to you is that, so as you participate in the FFR service for the grid, so you get paid. And also, you can, so in the UK, for example, in the night around like 2 a.m. to 5 a.m., the electricity price is very cheap, like 7 cents per kilowatt hour. But in the daytime, it can be 35 cents per kilowatt hour. So you can charge in the midnight and use in the morning. So it's very attractive.
It's almost
that's one of the things that I like about batteries, because there's so many usages. This is an example from the UK. 2018 in Sweden, there's another way that they use it. they also use it for the frequency control reserve.
Okay, yeah.
In Germany, they use it for self-consumption. In the Netherlands, they use it for trading on the electricity market, a little bit like you do in the UK.
Yeah.
You have any? You see any differences in what the products that they are needing, or the technology that you need to provide for the different usages, or is it all basically all the same, your technology?
So technology-wise, it's the same, but application in different scenarios depends on the market differentiations. For example, actually, it's all about the electricity price policy. So if you have, for example, in the UK, you have different price at different time, and also there is a FFR market that they pay you money for the service you offer to the grid. Then you can do like this. So it work with aggregator, or let's say work with hub like Blick doing.
Yeah.
So with Blick compatible with SolarX, so actually you can control the inverter when to charge and when to discharge. So in this way, it will give clients a very reachable application.
What I'm wondering is, because it's quite interesting to hear that the UK has basically been much earlier on all these kinds of development than other countries. Do you know why that is? Would you know why? I don't know why that is actually.
I think
But in 2018, they already started doing this stuff.
Yeah,
Nobody else did.
It's all part of the electricity price market. So the market is quite open and flexible.
And the market's also very volatile, I suppose. And prices are going wildly up and down. It's an island.
Yeah.
And now we are seeing the same wild up and down movement in the electricity prices in continental Europe.
Yeah. So let's ask you, Rudy. I mean, where do you see your batteries going? I mean, you have these 4 gigawatts, which basically disturb. What is it used for?
So if we consider the battery application scenarios, if we are only talking about residential battery, for past 10 years, mainly it goes PV plus storage. It's for self-consumption, for peak shaving. That's the main application scenarios. But we are talking about recent years, a lot and more coming up is VPP. That means like under this trend that requires the battery shall be more.
We are at SolarX Power, and
you have only 1 cycle per day mostly, and 2 hours backup time. But with VPP, you perhaps need 1.5, 2 cycles per day, and that requires more stability of the battery cells. That's what we are working on more, and that's where the Pylontech value is coming from, because the cells manufacturers, we only providing ourselves to the stationary batteries, and we are working for our R&D department from these directions.
That's a good point, because a lot of installation companies tell me that they are worried about the cycle life and the how long will the battery last, because indeed, as you say, batteries were built for 1 cycle per day, which is easy, does it for a battery. It doesn't need to work very hard. So of course it can last a long time. But now with the virtual power plants, or any versions of it, because virtual power plants are a very broad description of all the intelligent things we can do with batteries. Now we're really putting this thing to work. So should installers worry about that, or do you have that completely covered?
How many cycles can you do nowadays?
As Pylontech technology, it's a little bit different with automotive car sales. Automotive car sales back to 10 years before, the main, even right now, the main target or the main focus is for density, because for cars, but for Pylontech, because we have our main business is stationary batteries. So our all priority always goes with a longer lifespan and better performance only for the stationary batteries.
And that's one of the things that I find interesting about Pylontech, because you guys have always just done the stationary batteries, and
long term.
Many others, they do electrical vehicles and stationary batteries, and it's basically 2 completely different usages of the battery. And if you focus on this one thing, you can optimize for this one thing as well.
Hey, I have one horrible way to use batteries, because it's a real problem with the grid. The grid now, for example, in the Netherlands is so full. Overall, it's only 30%, but it's peaking everywhere. And so that's why if you're a company, you say I want new 3 times 80 amp connection because I need more energy. Oh, you're the first in 5 years. It takes 5 years to get a electric. And so what people nowadays do also is saying, okay, I'm taking an inverter and I'm taking 200 kilowatt hour battery, and now I can basically I can have 100 kilowatt extra uses of batteries.
Yes, exactly.
That's not very positive, but it's because but you need electricity. If you can't get it this way, that's another way to get it.
Yes,
Do you
for
see
the
that?
that is for the commercial CNI
Yes, for
batteries.
companies, yeah.
Yeah, CNI battery solutions.
Do you see that?
Yeah, it's very popular now today. So, for example, yesterday a lot of installers come, they ask for solutions, and for example, also some farmers that they want a big battery system to solve the problems. They don't when the sunshine is very good, they have congestion problem that they cannot inject the power to the grid,
Yeah.
or they may be charged because dynamic electricity price. So sometimes when you inject the power to grid, you get charged. So they have to store the power into the battery.
Yeah.
So the big battery is a solution that they can store the power in the daytime and use it in the night. But also they can do the trading. So when the price is very high, they discharge the battery to the grid and they get well paid. But also, for example, when electricity price is negative, they charge the battery, they get paid. So they get double benefit. So this is very sexy for the investors.
You call it sexy.
Yeah,
That's a great word. Yes.
I thought only my
Yes.
voice was
Sexy
sexy,
use of
but
power.
indeed,
Yeah.
I think that. But well, I think it's well known that I think that batteries are absolutely sexy product, exactly because you can do so many nice things with it,
Yeah, exactly.
That's
and
true.
we need it because we are producing so much electricity. I just had a conversation here during one of my lunches that somebody said, yeah, but I have customers who ask me to shut off the PV production
Yeah.
during the noontime. And I said, yeah, well, shut it off. Yes, of course, it's a solution not to inject at negative prices. True, it's a solution.
Yeah.
But it's such a pity because then we are producing the kilowatt hours with sunshine. We're shutting them down.
Yeah.
And in the evening, we're using electricity
We're
made
buying
by
it.
gas-fired plants.
Yes. Really great.
How crazy is that?
Yeah.
Instead, you can just simply buy a battery and you can use all that solar energy much better way. And we're going to have to.
Yeah.
Because with the gigantic production of solar energy every day that we see all over Europe now.
Yeah.
In France this morning, there was also a news item that prices are much more becoming negative than before. So
In Holland also.
in Holland
yeah.
also, in every country. So
75% more than last year, and it's really going hundreds of hours nowadays, and that's interesting.
and the fastest way to solve that is with batteries.
Yeah. Okay. Then I ask you a question about, especially you, about. I mean, we need 100 times more batteries, 100 times more batteries. I hear that every time it doubles the production, prices go down with 25%. And last year we doubled and redoubled it, so that prices went down almost 50%. Overall a little bit more than that. How fast can we expect? How did you see that? How is that working in your company? About what's happening to the prices when now the consumption goes up?
To be honest, the price come down from the battery business. One thing is because the market getting more competitive. That's nature from the market wise to
Hooray.
get down. And the second thing is because it's closely related to the automotive car industry, because automotive car industry, they have so much sales coming from that industry that went to the storage industry. That comes the reason that pricing come down from the battery system level. But if you check by technology wise, if you are thinking about like in a short future,
Yeah.
every company first of all is working for recycling. That's lower the cost for LFP.
In 2030, what can we expect?
It can be
2030
anyway.
is just
So-
like 6 years away. Do
Mhm.
we have already the new kind of solid state batteries, the salt batteries?
Sure.
Do you?
Sure. So by 2030, we expect a gigawatt hour level battery shall be installed in Europe. It's not possible for all those lithium, batteries, like chemistry batteries, shall be made by lithium. It's not possible.
No.
So that's why we are working strongly with locally R&D team to work for for lithium ion batteries.
Yeah.
We already have some deliveries in domestic China for the scooter market with the lithium ion batteries, and we are working hard to push it to the storage,
Okay.
to the stationary storage industry.
So, what
That's-
do you think, Alex? What do you think of 2030? Where will we be then? And how many of the installations of solar will have a battery installed with it?
I think by 2030, maybe every installation is with battery.
Yeah.
And also, as the EV car is more and more popular, and this brings challenge to the grid, because when every EV car is charging, then you have you have big demanding from the grid. And with the PV system, I believe that it can be effectively help the grid to support
Very
big
good.
demanding. Yeah.
Okay, very simple answer. Everybody needs one.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it needs also be a rule. I think it should not be optional. It should be a rule because people need to stabilize the grid. Okay, we're going to talk about that some further. Let's take a look at Huawei because they also have a vision of where it goes with residential and commercial, and of course what happens with the battery life. But let's take a look. I am at Huawei country, and it's just unbelievable. There's hundreds and hundreds of products. I cannot decide what to do, but let's start with my favorite one, and that is charging. Here we have a supercharger. Basically, has a support for 600 kilowatt, charging 600 kilowatt, so it can charge a truck. And also, you just have a battery to basically keep balancing the grid. So that's basically 600 kilowatt hour battery. We now need a lot of smart charging places. This is an example of a smart charging place. If you have 10 cars, you need about a megawatt of support, and you need 200 kilowatt hour battery. That's new at Huawei. But I just want to talk about Emma. And Emma is a home management system. It basically helps you to balance your solar panels, the battery included, charging the car, managing your heat pump, and also buying and selling energy to the grid. It works with any kind of inverter in the last 4 or 5 years. So every inverter of Huawei supports batteries, and there's also supporting Emma. Of course, you have a three-phase inverter. They have a new one. The batteries, every module is 7 kilowatt hours, and price of the batteries has gone down 50% compared to last year. And at the moment, there's a huge supply of batteries. Everywhere, all over the world, people are making batteries. And we also need a lot of demand to basically balance the grid. So that's the news of Huawei. Emma, smart management system, making it very easy to use your own energy, having a nice app to support it all, and also support for the electric car and everything around it. And if you are a small, medium company, then with a 100 kilowatt hour battery, you can basically stabilize your whole energy and have 3,000 panels on your roof. And Huawei has support for all of it. See you later. Huawei was such a city. I mean, it was just like unbelievable how big the booth is. It's very impressive, and also very exciting what that kind of technology they have. Very happy to have Eduard from down here, lead distribution Huawei partners, Benelux Wattcraft, and you have to explain that last word, Wattcraft, Eduard. But I mean, I looked at the booth. It was all about integration of inverters and of batteries and smart systems and that kind of stuff. But first, start with what's Wattcraft, and what do you do at the company?
Yeah, thank you for visiting our booth. Of course, we were happy to have you there. Wattcraft is the largest distributor for Huawei products in Europe. Actually, we also do it in India. We have a factory in India.
Okay.
You didn't know that, I think. We have. And we do the representation in Benelux and in the whole of Europe. And we focus on Huawei products. We solely sell and support Huawei products.
Okay,
Yeah.
alrighty. So if we look at what's new, I mean, we already gave a little tour, but what are the trends now currently in 2024? We had a huge year of doubling the solar capacity. The grids are screaming bloody murder everywhere. The batteries are slowly getting a lot in Germany. Tell us a little bit about the trends you see.
I think, and that also shows on the booths, is that we have A lot of demand for storage, of course, and in different segments, from residential to commercial CNI and utility.
Yeah.
We have residential. We developed a specific software platform that connects the inverter, the battery, and all the home domestic heating and every air conditions, heat pumps, everything that's there. We work with the DC chargers. You probably saw it on the booth.
Yeah.
And I think in the last 6 months we've seen an increasing demand. It varies per country, because you see, for instance, I'm from Holland, so of course I have most knowledge of the Dutch market, but the demand for the 200 kilowatt battery is unbelievable.
Really?
We can't keep up production with the demand. It's unbelievable.
And that's a 200 kilowatts.
That's a 200 kilowatts. I would not say it's the best sold battery now in the Netherlands, but I think we're close. Probably you know more than that about that, Peter. But
I think it's a very well sold. I don't know if it's number 1 or number 2, but it's very well up there.
And it's a really well received.
Who is using then a 200 kilowatt? Is that for big solar plants?
Well, that's
or
a good question, because it varies a lot. We have a company with trucks that's delivering goods in large cities in the Netherlands, and they got the local government says as of from next year only electricity. So they have a lot of diesel trucks, and they have to do the switch, and they have to do the DC charges at
Hooray!
night.
No more diesel in the city.
Well, that's a good idea, but from the technology perspective, we're not there yet, and the company is also not. So
Okay, well, a little bit stress is okay.
We need to step up a lot. We need to
Is
step
that
up.
so, Peter?
Absolutely. I think we are late in the battery
absolutely.
adaptation. I would say
Very late.
very late. I mean, we really have created a challenge, and not to call it a problem, but a challenge, that we want to do all kinds of things with electricity. We want to produce it, and up until very recently, we weren't very active thinking about how shall we use it.
Yeah.
And
Well,
how shall
actually,
we manage it?
I think the
How
government.
shall we?
Yeah, I think the government was doing everything to prevent batteries in the
They were
Netherlands, because they were doing the
actively-
saldering.
they were-
They succeeded.
Well,
They
and,
succeeded.
but not only in the residential area, where of course there is a net metering, the soldering, but they were actively debating about the use of battery all the time, also in the CNI. Finally, they come to the conclusion, that's the way to go, because that's the easiest and the fastest way to solve the electricity grid issues,
The whole
and to
country,
integrate solar into the grid.
yeah,
And
the whole country started to move when people started to complain, hey, I cannot get a new electricity for my company. I cannot expand anymore. And hey, I have 1,000 houses, and sorry, we can integrate you in the grid in 5 years. And then suddenly it goes, how? Really? And now suddenly our government is waking up, and we're the number 1 is solar installation in the world, almost Australia. I think.
Australia is number 1.
And now we're
Pro
number 2.
capita, the Netherlands is number 2.
Let me add a little nice thing to know about that. We're number 1 in PV, or number 2 if we set Australia on the first. But we also, if you look at the number of 200 kilowatt batteries that Huawei is selling worldwide, guess what country is number 1 at the moment?
America.
In terms of numbers, you will never guess it.
The Netherlands,
It's
probably.
the Netherlands.
No,
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
I mean,
This is
you
true story.
supply-
This is true. This is 100%.
Well,
So
there's
the-
one little country. There's one little country which is bigger. China.
Yeah.
Come on, China did.
Okay.
I mean, we
You're-
had
you're
216
absolutely right.
gigawatts.
You're absolutely
It's installed last year.
No, but hang on.
445.
Let's
But okay,
zoom.
but the
Let's
Netherlands
zoom
is
in
number
on this
2.
thing, because this is quite a big thing. That the 200 kilowatt hour battery,
Yeah.
made by Huawei, the number 1 sales country is the
Holland.
Netherlands.
That's crazy.
I didn't know that.
And it says something about how we're doing with the grids, because
We're in trouble.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think we're still at the beginning. I think we have, in terms of numbers, if we in next 12, 24 months, it will even grow more. It's a good development, but it's also, it feels like we're behind. We're behind.
We are behind, and that's why we have to speed things up. Also on the residential CNI, on the utility scale. It's actually very, very, very good news what you're saying, because the market in PV market is a little bit in decline. But if what you're saying is basically that we have an enormous wave ahead of us of batteries that will go to the market. That's
Hey, let's talk about 2 things. I mean, the residential. Everybody's going to get batteries, and we need to manage that system. I mean, you have a home management system. I met her. yesterday. Emma.
Yeah,
No,
it's a
good
she, huh?
name.
It's a
What does it do?
energy management assistance.
Yeah,
Something like I believe that's
there has
the.
to be a second M in there. I don't know what
There
it
is,
is.
I don't know where we have the two M's, but something like that. Yeah, it's just well, I call it like a middleware software platform, and that just makes the connection between the inverter, the battery, probably your charger, and all your
Heat pumps.
heating facilities in the house. And it also has an element of AI in it. So
I love AI. Tell me about
I
it.
knew that.
Yeah.
I'm a follower of you, so
Oh,
I actually am. I actually am.
Very excited. Yes.
So it's AI. It's adapting on forecast of the weather. It monitors usage in the house,
Yeah.
and it anticipates on that in terms of battery cap.
Does it do buy selling?
It's we are expecting that to somewhere this year to have this available on the platform. It's not yet,
Okay.
not yet, but we know we have companies that are
There's some companies who do that.
provided.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
Very popular in Holland. Yeah.
I've heard. Maybe we can talk about
Okay,
it.
so you integrate it. Yeah, no, I'm going to go. So, but that's and is Emma shipping already? Is that already starting? Is that coming with every inverter automatically, or do
No,
you
it's
need
it's it's like a little unit that you place in your
little
like
hub? Yeah.
yeah, and it replaces the existing dongle and other energy meters. It's
Yeah.
just one unit, and it's available. It's available
Okay, good.
as of from
Yeah, we're selling it already.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
yeah,
Okay.
it's available.
Well, Peter, I mean, I know you as a very enthusiastic arguing of politics and also distributing, but you also have a love, of creating software yourself. And you started a long time ago with Blick,
Yes.
BLIQ, which stands for.
Well, it's not an abbreviation. It's just
Okay.
a nice name,
Yeah.
Blick.
So what does Blick do?
What Blick does is Blick makes batteries smart. So we wanted to make a system that could do a lot more with batteries than just the self-consumption. I always think that self-consumption is the primitive way, the prehistorical way of using the batteries. It's batteries 1.0. Because as we just saw earlier on the show, there is many things you can do with batteries, but of course you have to command this thing. So what we set out to do is to make a system that is basically compatible with a wide range of batteries, which is compatible also with a wide range of electricity companies, and which can give a wide range of usages for the homeowner to basically make the most out of his battery.
Yeah.
So why just use self-consumption? Always give the example, self-consumption. I'm going to store my own electricity and then use it during the night. Yeah, what happens when I'm on holiday in the summer and we would have a proper weather in the summer? Then my battery would fill up on the first day. I'm not using it for 3 weeks.
No,
and basically the
but you
battery
say-
stands there.
I mean, I'm
So
looking here at
there's
your
a lot more
website.
smart things that we can do with that.
Yeah, I'm seeing here your website. It says basically you can earn €1,755 by trading by helping to balance
Yeah,
the grid.
that's
just the business case.
Yeah, that's just the business case. Is what we're doing today.
Yeah.
So that's one of the business cases that you can choose, and basically you're helping an electricity company to balance their
Where's
buying
the
and
English
selling.
side? Where's the English side?
Where's
go to
the English side? There is an English side.
Yeah. Can I just click here on the flag English?
Quite honestly, I don't think it is in English
Good.
yet.
Okay,
Yet.
good. Anyway,
Yet.
so I
We're
mean,
selling it in the Benelux, so in
but I
Flanders
think
and
this
in
is
the
really
Netherlands.
great. You basically say if you help to trade, you can earn $2,000 with a 20 kilowatt hour battery. So
Absolutely.
that's very concrete. That's
very concrete.
and
So
that's
you can
not everybody
actually
who use it.
Yeah.
And also, are you system dependent? I mean, are you working with Huawei inverters and that kind of stuff?
We are also working with Huawei, but as I said, the whole concept is that you can choose the battery that you want.
Yeah.
Add Blick to it.
Yeah.
Make it smart. Choose the business model that you like most, which
Yeah.
you feel comfortable with. You can say, okay, I still want to only do self-consumption. Fine, you can do that. You can do a smarter version of self-consumption.
Yeah.
You can do trading on the day-ahead market.
Yeah.
And
Your own
you can
energy company.
you can do your the imbalance trading.
And how complicated is that for me as a consumer?
Well, not complicated. It needs to be installed by an installer, obviously.
Yeah.
You have an app, and there you can see whatever happens. And we want you to not touch it furthermore. And
Okay.
so it's
it's automatically.
automatically.
I just get money.
Automatically. I call it my money pump.
Okay, wonderful. And I basically have a subscription from you, or do you do also the trading for me? And then do you send money my way, or do I send your money your way? As a
There's
consumer.
As a consumer, you have a subscription. So
Yeah.
there's a monthly subscription, which is a fixed amount.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to take part of the profit that you can make on your battery.
Yeah.
We think it's your battery, so the profit should go to
Yeah.
you. So that's why we just take a fixed amount of subscription, and then depending on which of the models you're using, if you're using the day trade, the trading basically, then you just see your electricity bill go down. If you do the imbalance, then you get a bonus from the electricity company, because of course they cannot just put that on a
Yeah.
simple.
And do you see yourself as a potential virtual power plant in the future, that you can basically take 1,000 clients of yours or 10,000 clients, and that you can be a real interesting commercial partner representing me with my asset, like the Uber from the battery world?
Yeah, well, virtual power plant is a very broad container.
We're going to talk
word,
about that
so
after the break. But, yeah.
every smart use of batteries is called virtual power plant. But indeed,
No. The thing is, if it's for me alone, that's one thing. If you do it for 10,000 people at the same time and you optimize it, then I think you're starting to get there.
if you are, so you're part of a virtual power plant, but it's not even relevant for you. Because if you want to do your smarter self-consumption versions that we have nice algorithms for, or if you want to just trade on the electricity market, then basically you are doing your thing with your battery. And yes, we do it in a swarm of batteries, so that's what makes it a virtual power plant. If you go on the imbalance proposition, there, of course, the more batteries that are on that imbalance proposition, the better it becomes, and the more money you will get from it.
Okay, so that's very clear. How do you do that? What do you think, Eduard? What is the future? Is it going to be these systems, which is Huawei is having their own system, and then BYD has their own system, and everybody has their own system? Or is it more a platform which integrates all the different manufacturers? What is happening?
I think that so far, and in this way, I can of course speak specifically for Huawei. We think that there is a specific role for the aggregators to do the development, and it is that the business model of the aggregators is constantly evolving with the imbalancing and everything else. So I think that that's not something that will be done by the Huawei. That's what I'm expecting for the near future. So we need to work closely together. And I think that for the consumer perspective, it's nice that if you make a decision for which aggregator you choose for your home, that's also a decision for which energy company you're choosing.
Yeah.
So it's a combination, and I think that is the future. And we sell the hardware and the software for in the house, in the residential part. And I think that's how it goes together with the virtual, what you call the VVP or VPP.
Virtual power plant.
Virtual
power
plant.
the virtual power
The
plant.
people who run that are called aggregators. And it's a lot of words, but it's just simply making batteries smart.
But in a collective sense, make the whole system more smarter instead of one person. I think that is a big
ecosystem. That's how I would like to call it.
By making one smarter, basically we're making the whole ecosystem smarter.
We'll talk about that.
We need lots of ones to make a real difference.
But I mean, I can see you live very peacefully, happy after.
Absolutely.
Okay,
No,
good.
we work very closely with the inverter manufacturers on being and remaining compatible with their products. And we really share a lot of knowledge about the usage of the battery and the smart things and what we can do together.
Nice life together. Okay, thank you very much, Edward, for coming
Thank you for having me here. Thank you.
And thanks for the visit on the booth. We're now going to look at a little competitor of the biggest manufacturer of batteries in the world, and that's BYD. Build Your Dream, and see what they have in stock for us. Okay, let's take a look at BYD. Of course, they're the biggest manufacturer of batteries for a long time. They're totally into cars, but also residential. We're going to talk about the update and new things, and also the numbers behind the company. It starts all with the car, because they ship 7 million cars, and EVs and batteries are totally connected. That's why the prices went down. And of course, this is a nice car. It basically drives 500-600 kilometers. It basically charges with 150. There's 80 kilowatt hours in the battery. And they ship 7 million hybrid and fully battery operated cars. And that's why they basically can produce a lot of batteries in the residential market. And they just shipped 1 million boxes. So 7 million cars and 1 million boxes of battery in the homes. And here is the system. They have low voltage, which can go up to 1 megabyte of batteries, and they have high voltage, which can basically go up to 66 kilowatt. With higher power, basically they can also have a limited expansion, but I mean 66 kilowatt for a normal home is very good. They support all the different inverters, that's why they're all known. So that's basically the residential part of the business. And here they also have a nice thing which you really want to have in your home. So that's totally new, and that is basically from 30 to 90 gigawatt, and you can put 64 of these cabinets in a row, up to 5.6 megawatt hour. And of course, it's all the blade technology, and this is very safe, no hazards. You can put a truck on top of it, you can put needles in it. It's very safe, it never backfires. What was interesting, they are now working on salt batteries and solid state, and that is the potential of having batteries which are way cheaper, factor of 10, and they can produce 100 times more, and that's what we need in the future to stabilize the grid. So BYD is working on it, no announcement yet, but that's in the lab, getting ready for industrial capacity. Really good. So I thought this was really mind-boggling. 40 gigawatt cumulative and 20 gigawatt last year. And last year they had the same story.
Yeah. It's the growth of the battery market in general worldwide is something we have never seen.
Yeah,
it is.
Well, you're used to it in solar.
I'm used to it, but that's not. No, I don't agree with it because the solar market grew very fast and actually doubled in 2022 and 2023.
Yeah.
Okay, but the size of this wave is much bigger than the previous one. So better gear up, everybody, because this is the big one.
Yeah. So, and that's what I really think we need. I mean, I'm very impatient because the cost of batteries is like 500-600 euro, and in the EV world it's 200 euro or 150 euro, and it's going to 100 euro. And there's always 3 years behind. I think I'm really impatient here.
Yeah, the stationary battery market depends on, or used to depend on the EV. Yeah, so it was driven by the EV market, and then the stationary batteries were more or less like a byproduct. But that's changing also very strongly because it's not a byproduct anymore. Huh? We're really talking numbers.
Yeah,
and
so
that's very good. For
that's the first. The second number they said 7 million cars they built with a battery. 1 million residential and commercial installations in the energy grid. So that's 7 to 1. It's but it's respectful. It's 1 minute.
Of course, the batteries in the residential are much smaller than what goes into cars, so the numbers are not really comparable.
Yeah.
But if you just see the growth and the development, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah. So I'm slowly becoming more optimistic, and he's mind-boggling. I think, my God, why did it slow? Let's.
I'll hurry up.
To get 100 times more batteries, we need 10 times lower prices. In 2030. Let's see if that is possible. And I talked to Auke Hoekstra. Auke Hoekstra is called the Jesus of the solar industry. He's a scientist. He works for the University of Eindhoven, and he works for a think tank to think about this whole conversion of going to a green energy system. And he basically has some thoughts about what we can do to make the price of batteries a little bit lower, like 10 times. Let's listen. Aren't these batteries unbelievable expensive? I mean, I'm now going to investigate all the battery stuff which is here in Munich. In Germany, 80% of all the installations have batteries. In Belgium, about 60%. In the Netherlands, about 3%. Aren't they way too expensive?
Yeah, that's to be quite honest. I came to this game when batteries were about 1,500 euros per kilowatt hour. for electric vehicles. And I was still in that mindset, but recently it has become clear to me that I am really underestimating what's happening in batteries. It's even stronger, it's even more profound, I would say, than what's happening in solar, and we don't see it yet because the graph you're now showing, it makes clear how batteries are growing exponentially, very predictably, with 59% per year. That's really strong growth over the last since 2015 or something. And on the right, you see that plotted with a log graph, and you see that it's a really straight line.
Yeah.
And actually, this straight line matches our observed data with a 99.91% accuracy. So it's really a very predictable exponential growth of battery production. And that means that we have this potential to learn a lot. You see there in this graph, again, a very straight line. On the vertical axis, you see the price of batteries. And on your horizontal axis, also a log graph, both are log graphs, you see the amount of batteries we have produced.
Yeah.
And you see that, well, I can tell you that if you do the math on this line, fit a trend line to it, that again fits extremely well, that for every doubling of production, the energy, the price of batteries goes down with about 25%. So it's humongously cheaper if you produce more of it. What you see then is for solar panels that actually the raw materials are really cheap for solar panels. As silicon could in theory become very cheap, and even if we use less and less and less. Now, batteries, the interesting thing there is that right now for cars we're using largely NMC batteries, nickel, manganese, cobalt batteries for the cathode. This is pretty expensive stuff. So basically your cathode will, even if you have a very dense battery, which is a good thing because you need less material. For batteries, the lighter and better the batteries are, the cheaper they are. Very interesting. Yeah. Super light is super cheap, very different than with computers. But anyway, even with a super light NMC battery, you still pay about 50 euros, dollar per kilowatt hour for the nickel, manganese, cobalt. And then you pay another 10 euros or something for the lithium. So that's the absolute bottom price. You can never get lower than that. But now, these lithium iron phosphate batteries are becoming super popular. And they have an energy density now of about 200 watts hours per kilogram. So that's about 2/3 of the best NMC batteries. Yeah. Not a huge difference. It's a difference, but not a huge difference. So increasingly used in, let's say, cheaper cars or cars with not the absolute maximum range. And these batteries, they last forever and they are super cheap. The materials that were the NMC battery, the cathode cost about 50 euros. But the iron and phosphate in the cathode of this LFP battery, lithium iron phosphate battery, cost like $1, a little bit less actually. So it's incredibly, the only thing you're still paying for in terms of materials, of course you still have to produce the thing, etc. But in terms of materials is lithium. And now what we see happening is that sodium batteries are becoming super interesting. And sodium batteries are already a gigafactory built for them now, so they're beyond close to commercialization. They're now commercial. There's also grid batteries already made with sodium batteries. If you look at the material for sodium batteries, you can even replace the lithium, which was the only expensive component still left in your battery, and replace it with salt, basically natrium, which is the same as you have in the sea, salt.
So, and then you would go to $1.
Sorry.
And then you would go to $1 per kilowatt hour for the basic cost of materials.
And now, if you extrapolate the cost, as I showed you how you could say 25% cheaper for every doubling, and just extrapolate the cost until 2030, right?
Yeah.
You would arrive at $8 per kilowatt hour. Now, I'm not saying batteries are going to be $8 per kilowatt hour. There's probably going to be all kind of reasons in terms of production cost, and you still have to ship the stuff, and there's profits. Well, but still, batteries are going to be very cheap. And if you think what that means for the grid, it's a game changer.
So, Auke Hoekstra, the sodium batteries will cost about, for the materials, $1 per kilowatt hour. and it will take 5 to 10 years before that sodium is there. But everybody is now mentioning it. The BYD is mentioning. So, do you think in 2030 that we can really go the same route as with solar you've been through?
I think in the 10 years to come, there is indeed a similar development. Absolutely. And so we're talking about doubling of the market every so many years, or maybe even every year. And eventually that will drive the cost down because the production gets so much more efficient on that scale that there's gonna be big developments there. But also with solar, we saw prices develop in the last 10 years, but it didn't just take 1 year.
No.
So it is indeed, but it's a movement that is in motion.
Yeah, but remember in 2010, I think the market was 4% of what it is now. So the market is 25 times as big now in 14 years. So that is huge.
Yeah, that's huge. And if you
2,
specifically,
4, 8,
and I think
16.
the biggest,
That's 5 times doubling.
yeah, and but the biggest market growth did not start in 2010. It started in 2018. That's when the big European
last year
market
was the biggest growth ever, I think.
Yeah, but we're talking about 5.5 years when all of this actually emerged. Huh?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it isn't. We're always talking about 2010. No, 18 is when the real starting point came.
Okay, 2030, ladies and gentlemen, we'll have batteries which are 10 times cheaper, and we'll need 100 times more to stabilize the grid. Okay, that's the thing. But we can start with the batteries today, and we can have payback times which start with 2 years. I mean, you showed me the examples in the Netherlands, but in Sweden they have huge problems with the grid with frequency adjustment. Let's talk to a software company, Canel.
Yes.
Canel. They're 2 Swedish guys. They work with one of the biggest inverters in the world and the biggest battery pack. And they say, how are they basically integrating it in Sweden and making a virtual power plant, having thousands and thousands of people integrated the battery systems, the demands, they manage it, and the supply, they manage it into a virtual power plant, and they can make great money that way. So they have payback times of 2 years. So let's take a listen. Hey, we in Europe have so much solar energy, the electric grid is basically trembling and has huge problems. We can upgrade it or we can be smart. Canal is a company which basically we hope that it will solve it. Roger, what is Canal doing?
Canal stabilize the grid, so the frequency between the consumer and the producer always being 50 hertz.
It's a virtual plant software company.
Exactly, that's what it is.
Virtual plant software. And how does the software helps to stabilize the grid?
It's actually a virtual power plant, so the software will connect a BESS and also a PV or do you
electric car charging?
Even some wind farms or other things, and we can connect them together and refine through our platform and stabilize the grid. So we will optimize it and not send too much electricity out to the grid, but not too less either. So we will
you optimize the grid by demand stabilization on up and down, and on the other hand supply stabilization, and making sure that basically gets connected. And that's the software which you're doing.
Yeah.
And for that you need to have access so that you can turn things on and off.
Exactly.
Like my electric car or my heat pump.
It could be dynamic or static, absolutely.
And what about, this Vico has beautiful, fantastic Italian battery systems and inverters. What is the role of that here in the system?
Yeah, we are their exclusive partner in the Nordic area. So, of course, we can then connect these inverters to our VPP. And then we have the LFP batteries working as a motor behind this the whole solution. So,
because batteries are really important, right? You have demand, you have supply, and you have batteries in between.
Yes, for sure. It's really, really a key thing. But inverter, don't forget the inverter, because that's...
Of course, we will not forget the inverter is extremely important, and the batteries. And this whole system needs to get smarter.
Yeah.
And that's what you're trying to do in Sweden and in the Nordics to put that together. If you look at the batteries as a stabilizing force, how is the demand of batteries in the energy system going up? Is that growing a lot?
it's huge. It's really growing very fast, and especially due to the VPPs now, so we can really use it in a smart way. The
VVP?
The VPP, virtual power plants.
Of course, VPP. Of course, everybody knows virtual power plant. Yes, of course. Okay.
So that's really, and then we see LFP batteries is really booming right now, and we see this will be doubled every quarter, maybe the business in Europe. So it's amazing. You can see on the exhibition, it's huge.
We know batteries are everywhere, but they are now used to stabilize the grid. That is really an important function, not to charge, not to drive cars, or to basically supply the, or make sure that you can use your own solar at evening. No, it is to stabilize the grid, especially frequency is where the money is.
Yeah, 50 hertz for the TSO, the transmission company. It really needs to stabilize the 50 hertz, and we do it with batteries. But what we see maybe in future, backup power could also be interesting, because you don't know really what's happening with the grid. So if it's switched off, we can have power to the facility through backup.
How easy is it for me as a consumer to basically connect my 10 kilowatt hour battery to your system and then to be part of that virtual power plant and get rewarded for it?
It's actually quite easy. I mean, with our EMS that we send out to you, you don't even need to be an electrician. You can do it by yourself, or you can call your partner, your local partner, and they can help you out. Then when they are installed through a network connection, we will take over and connect you to the grid.
You buy and sell and basically reward, do everything, and then basically I get my money at the end of the month.
We optimize it, so it's not only the frequency regulation and hold the 50 hertz, it's also spot price optimizing, intraday, peak shaving. So it's.
I just get a subscription, and you get a part of the rewards, basically what the money you make for me.
Absolutely.
Is that already worth in Sweden? Worth it to buy a battery for 10 kilowatt hour?
Absolutely, it is. Yeah. I mean, the return of investment in Sweden right now, it's less than 2 years.
2 years, my gosh! And on the commercial field, if I want a big baby like this, is that worth buying something like that and to being part of your virtual power plant?
Absolutely, it is. It's even more or less.
So we all need to buy batteries, basically use it to stabilize the grid, so that we don't have to upgrade it to huge amounts, and it's getting really easy because you do all the work with it.
Yeah, exactly. We really take care of the whole chain there.
Is there hope for the European grid?
Yeah, we think so, and I think we need to work more together and see this in future like one grid and not all countries. We have to work together to find the best solution for the grid. It's critical.
So Sweden and Scandinavia, you know. What about the south? And what about, for example, the Netherlands? How bad is it there?
Well, we heard it's really bad there, and it's of course you have so much wind and sun, and the more renewable energy you have, the more critical the grid will be. Yeah. And that's what's happening in Sweden as well now. We're switching off the nuclear power and turn on the renewable power. So we don't know the next day if it's going to be power or not. Yeah. I think you have the same problem.
Do you have blackouts, or do people have, can you as a company not get extra electricity subscription?
It's very rare still in Sweden, but what we heard, it's very critical now that the frequency are really on the limit. So we have been very, very close to total blackouts, but due to the batteries now, we have.
We hear from experts we're going to have blackouts in the Netherlands, and we proud ourselves of having 9999999. You know, we never had problems. We had twice the capacity we needed, but we are going to get blackouts. Yeah. Is that something you recognize?
Also in Sweden, like Joachim told you, it's been really close, but we have been helping the TSO to not get any blackouts.
A company like yours, can it really help to stabilize the grid, to do a meaningful amount?
We absolutely we do that, yeah, and multiply assets. It's not only the BESS, it's actually the total loads you get beside the meter. Yeah.
When are you coming to the Netherlands?
Hopefully next year.
This is Canal. Hopefully a solution for our poor grid, and that we don't have to expand it all the time, but that we can make it a little bit smarter. Thank you, guys. Wow, amazing! I thought we were the only problem in Europe, but the Swedes really have a problem with their grid, and these guys really are starting to take a huge amount of consumers. I mean, if you now compare what they do with Blick, what is the difference?
Well, the difference between how in Sweden this technology is used and how in the Netherlands this technology is used is basically in Sweden it's all frequency control reserve. So that is imbalance on the grid side. What we do in the Netherlands, and that's why I think it's interesting to look at Europe and how the different business models are used. In the Netherlands, it's imbalance on the electricity provider side. So basically, it's the same problem. You just solve it for a different person.
Yeah, and what is now? But imbalance and frequency, how do they connect together? I never understood that.
The one is on the grid side. It's the grid operator who has to keep his net in balance.
Yeah.
And one is on the electricity provider side, who has to basically fulfill what he predicted the day before. So the day ahead market and the imbalance market are on the retailer, on the electricity provider side, they are closely related.
And why is it a bigger business model in Sweden to this frequency stuff compared to the imbalance stuff?
Because the volatility on the electricity market is not as big as the volatility on the electricity markets in the Netherlands.
Okay.
So that's why basically the problem emerged on a different point.
Yeah.
And then that's why they went to solve the problem at a different
Your
point.
platform, what does it do? All these functions? Do you also do frequency?
We don't do frequency controls, so we stay on
Not yet, or ever,
well,
or
never say never, but we don't have specific plans for it. We focus indeed on the electricity provider. What can we optimize there, and how can we make that that trading more balanced, basically, to take the pain out of that and let the consumer basically profit from that whilst helping the grid.
Okay. How big are the batteries in Sweden and how big are they in the Netherlands
Well, it's quite funny because these two countries, as they use an imbalance proposition or a day trading proposition, the size of the battery is basically as big as you can, because the more volume you have, the more you can trade.
Yeah.
Whereas with self-consumption, you very often see that the batteries are a bit smaller because they're not always used. So in Belgium, for example, we saw that the batteries were on average 10 kilowatt hours.
Yeah.
In the Netherlands, they are on average 20 or 25.
Really? Okay.
So that's a really big difference. 10 kilowatt hours is also a little bit driven by, you get the maximum subsidy when you had a 10 kilowatt hours. So that was basically what everybody chose. But if you do the trading, with your battery, it's whatever fits on your grid connection. Because
so
that's
if you
also,
now see here, this is your site in English. I found a switch. If I can make $1,800 euros for a 20 kilowatt hour battery, what is just for the trading? What is the payback time then?
that's we would say 5 years.
So in the Netherlands, every consumer, by installing a battery and using Blick, adding Blick to it, he or she can basically get it back in 5 years.
Yep. And I would actually,
Wow.
I like to. There's different way to look at it. You can say, okay, what is the money that I can make with my trading?
Yeah.
Okay, and then calculate your payback time. That's one way. It's difficult to predict really accurately. Okay, this is what it's going to be, because of course
every year is different.
Are dependent on the electricity prices and the imbalance prices in the future.
What Putin does,
for example.
Yeah.
But the way that I like to look at it is much more, okay, so this is a reduction of my electricity bill.
Yeah.
So if I look at my home situation, normally if I would buy an electricity contract from an electricity player, I would pay at least 25 cents per kilowatt hour. I'm way below that for my average kilowatt hour price.
Yeah.
And I basically take the difference between what I would normally pay and what I effectively pay after all my advantages from using the battery. And then,
which I don't have to do anything of. I install it.
You don't have
once,
to do anything,
go,
and then the payback time is 5 years or less.
Okay, so I was looking at the website. You basically you install it. You have a battery.
Yep.
You have a battery, and then you basically have a system and a nice app with it. And to install it, you need to go to energy? Where do they need to go
No,
to?
no,
Which
no,
one?
no. So all you need to do basically is you need to have a battery,
Yeah.
and you can buy the Blick battery, and then you have the total bundle together. But we don't want to force people into one direction.
No. But I mean, I can hear here
no,
a
no,
25 kilowatt hour
Let me
battery.
finish.
Yeah.
So you can buy a battery, so it can be a Huawei or it can be a Solar's Pylontech combination.
Yeah.
And you do whatever you would normally do,
Yeah.
install it as a normal battery,
Yeah.
and just add a little router to it. And then the little router takes over the commands of what the inverter does and therefore what the battery does.
Okay. With Blick.
That is Blick.
Yeah.
Yes.
And how much do I pay for Blick?
You would pay, well, your battery plus the router, which you can all find on the website. But for a monthly subscription, you only pay like €7.
And for that, I get €1,700 back by using my battery.
Of course, you have
in
to do the
trading.
investment in a battery, but
No,
essentially
but
that's
that
it.
pays it back in 5 years,
Essentially,
and I
that's
can
it.
also basically use my stuff in the evening, and all these advantages on top of it.
Essentially, that's it.
So this is gonna. How fast is it growing?
It's growing fast. It's
The
growing
awareness.
fast. What changed the market is basically, if I look at specifically the Netherlands, is there's a lot of awareness now about feeding electricity back into the grid. There was a lot to do about that. There was a lot of awareness about dynamic energy contracts. Imbalance trading is starting to be a little bit known, and ever since that, it is growing fast. Let me say that.
How fast?
Fast.
Doubling.
I would say exponential at this point in time. It's doubling fast.
Okay, so you're looking at the future's bright. You have to wear shades.
The future's bright. Yes. Well, I'm a very happy camper on that field. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we hope we showed you that batteries are not simple. Batteries are things you can basically get back. They can help you to consume your own electricity. They will help you by trading. By some other countries, frequency. But you will get your money back at a very reasonable time. Varying from 2 years in Sweden to 5 years in the Netherlands. But you need to have a battery, and the grid is going to be stabilized. You're not going to be having blackouts if we all do that. So take a look at it. Installers, there's a business case for it for everybody on the grid, right? I mean, and we need to get that message across.
There's a business case for everybody on the grid. And the fun thing about, because it's all driven by software, if the regulation in the electricity market changes, we can adapt the software and make something else work.
Yeah. If you have what happens if you have 100,000 users with 20 kilowatt hour batteries? So you have 20 megawatt of a battery. Basically, you can.
You know what
manage.
will happen?
What happens then?
You know what will happen? The electricity price will be much lower than it is today. I always make the statement that if in 2030 you still pay an electricity bill, you're really doing something wrong.
So this was the future, doubling the electricity of heat pumps, electricity, EVs, and also, but paying for it in a much smarter way. And you as an installer can take advantage of it. Think about it, try it out, look at it. It needs to be done to save the grid, and also to basically help yourself and help your consumers.
And to lower the electricity price of everybody.
Yeah, but also keep it going.
Keep it going.
Nice lie, but it needs to work. Okay.
Keep it going.
Thank you very much, Peter.
Thank you.
Wonderful. See you guys. This was the second live exhibition. We have a lot of videos online. We'll just share a playlist. We have a lot of booth visits, a lot of innovations for installers, made for installers by Solarclarity, and we hope to see you back next year. Cool.
Thank you.